not everybody tore down the buildings that were here. We were able to go back through, restore some of the houses. Some of the homes are still in the process of being restored, so try to keep that in mind when you look at that.
Cool.
So you guys are more than welcome to check out the neighborhood. Give me 1 second, I'm going to see how many people I have. 410, this is 413. To ask, I'm just going to do rules and things here because it's easier for you guys. But this is in fact the house. On behalf of the National Park Service, welcome. It is the only home that Lincoln ever owned. The house is about 179 years old. The family lived here for about 17 years. So I have some rules I have to give before we can go inside. So I ask that we don't touch any of the artifacts. Walls, doors, and door frames are included in that as well. About 80% of those are still original, so please don't touch or lean up against them. With this being a smaller group, it shouldn't be a problem. If you do happen to be a leaner on the first floor, there are some railings. More than welcome to lean up, touch the railings. Up on the second floor, though, some of the rooms don't have railings. I just need everyone to stay on the blue carpet. You'll see it throughout the house. If you step off the blue carpet or lean too far into one of the rooms, you'll hear an alarm go off. If you hear it, just step back on the alarm will stop. If we've got any bags of any sorts, just make sure they're to the front of the body throughout the tour so they don't hit walls, doors, door frames. Cell phones, I ask that they be put on silence or vibrate, and that's just so that way we don't distract everybody else. Pictures, flash photography, video, all of that is allowed as well. I just need you all to stay with me, so don't go into a room until I send you. Don't go back into a room that we were just in. If you do need to leave the house, just let me know. I do have to double check the doors because they don't always like to close right. And then if you have any food, gum, or candy, historic trash can, please throw it away in there. And I do believe that is all my rules. So a little bit of info on the house, and we'll just head straight on inside.
Great.
So originally, the house was built in 1839. The Lincolns buy it in 1844. When they do, it looks more like this house right here. It's a 1.5-story cottage home. It only had 3 rooms on the first floor. Half-story would have been a sleeping room. So looking between the two, you can definitely tell the Lincolns do some additions. Specifically, they do 2 different additions to the house where they live here. Ooh, sorry about that. But they do 2 different additions to the house where they live here. But when they first move in, they're actually going to move in with their first son, Robert. He'll be about 9 months old when he's moved into the home. Second boy, Eddie, is the first born here. He'll also be the first to pass at the age of 3. Lily is born about 3 years passes. And then we have a tyrannical little boy, Tab, who'll be born last. And that's all the rambunctious boys. So now we're going to head on inside and actually get to see the home. So if you guys will follow me.
Thank you.
Come on, you guys. We're going to head right on into the parlor room, that room right there. So this is the parlor room. It'll be the most formal room in the house. So if the Lincolns have any guests over, entertain, or have parties, this is the room they're going to do that all in. Which is the reason why, as you guys are looking around, you'll notice this room looks like it's almost divided into 2. It's because at one point it actually is. The back parlor room was one of the first additions done to the house. Originally it's done in 1846. That's going to be the bedroom. About 10 years later, though, they actually finished the upstairs, moved the bedrooms upstairs, elongate this room. Now that's going to allow for them to have larger parties. In fact, at one of their parties, Lincoln's invited about 500 people. Out of that, about 300 of those people showed up. If you happen to notice the rather large picture in the visitor center of the Republican rally, that is the party I'm talking about. There's 300 people in that picture, and all 300 of those people were in this room at one point or another. In fact, they may have even sat in some of this original black horsehair furniture that you're seeing, as that is in fact original to the family.
I was going to ask that.
Yes. Those are all original. The marble tabletop is original. That's actually used as Eddie's funeral. That's where they put his casket. The whatnot table you see over there is original, the bigger one. You notice on the floor there's 2 seashells. Both of those are original. They were given to Mary as gifts. The plainer looking candle holders on that side are original. When we get over there, you'll notice a bookshelf. Bookshelf is original as well. There's even one book in there. That is original. Now you do have another very special event that's going to happen right here in this room. May 19th, 1860. A group of men from Chicago show up unannounced. They're received in this room. What they're there to do is to ask Lincoln if he would run for the presidency. Now when he's asked, what do you guys think his answer is?
Probably
No.
No? No? Okay, how about you, ma'am? What do you think?
Yes.
You think yes?
I do.
So when he's asked, he says, I want to think about it. So he says he will think about it. Of course, a couple days later, he does in fact say yes. But in here, he's thinking about the South wanting to secede, all the issues over slavery, the fact the country was basically tearing itself in two. Of course, he was trying to decide if that's something he's going to be able to handle and whether he wants to put his family through all of that as well. Another issue is too, Mary Lincoln isn't going to be in here during the conversation. She's preparing all the refreshments for the gentleman. So of course, Lincoln wanted to have that time to talk to his wife as well. So with this being the most formal room in the house, and you're probably noticing there's a lot of breakables in here. I'm sure you've already guessed it, but the children are not allowed in this room. So we're going to head to the room they are allowed in. Just go right through this back parlor room into the dining room. I'll meet you in the sitting room. You'll have the red one.
He had more normal scare, so I'm assuming. We'll find out.
Alright, so in here you have the dining room. I'm sure you can imagine them having family dinners right here. What you're looking at, the table, both tables are original. Those 2 chairs are original as well. But yeah, for the most part, this is where family dinners would happen. So we're going to head on into the sitting room right over here. If you guys just want to follow me. So this is the sitting room. So of course it's like a family room, living room of today's time. You would be able to find the boys in here. They may be playing chess, checkers, perhaps even cards. Or if you notice the box on top of the table, that is called a stereoscope. And that is in fact the boys' original one. It would work by just taking one of the picture cards, sliding it in the slot at the top, look through the eye holes, pictures would appear 3D. For that time frame, that's going to be pretty high tech. Now that particular one is what they called a sweetheart model, and that's because you have the eye holes on both sides of it, which would allow 2 separate people to look at the same time. I'm sure what Lincoln was thinking when he bought this particular model was, this way Willie and Tad won't fight over whose turn it is quite as often. Now you might also find these boys in here bugging their mother. Mary's going to be over here at her sewing table. Sewing table and mirror, both of those are Mary's and they're original. But she's going to be probably working on some sewing for the family, or perhaps even reading. She was a very educated woman for the time, having almost 8 years of formal education, in a time when most women were lucky to have 1 to 2 years. She also spoke multiple languages, one of which included French. And prior to meeting Lincoln, she'd actually wanted to be a teacher. Lincoln, on the other hand, came from kind of a poorer family, grew up in a 1-room log cabin. He had less than a year of formal education.
Where was that cabin?
He was in Indiana.
Indiana.
He was born in Kentucky, spent most of his childhood in Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah. So Lincoln, where you're going to find him in here, is actually right there on that very rug in front of the fireplace. He likes to sprawl out on the rug. Rug is original. He would take one of these rocking chairs. Rocking chairs are reproductions. They are not original. Flip them upside down, take a nice pillow, shove it up against that rocking chair. He liked to just lean there and read a nice book. At least until Willie and Tad decided that it was time to wrestle. And Lincoln did dearly love to wrestle. In fact, he is also in the Wrestling Hall of Fame because he was so good at it. And when the family gets to the White House, even with Lincoln being president, these boys and Mr. Lincoln still love to wrestle. In fact, one of the boys' friends, her name was Miss Julia. One day she is walking through the White House when she kind of hears a commotion. Of course, she was curious to see what was going on, so she opens the door. I'm sure you could imagine her surprise when she sees the President of the United States pinned to the ground. You had the boys on each arms. Their friends had a hold of Lincoln's legs. And upon seeing Miss Julia enter the room, they actually started to yell, Miss Julia, sit on his chest, sit on his chest. Of course, at this point, Miss Julia is completely mortified. That's the only thing she could think of. She closed the door, turned around, walked away, pretending like nothing happened. Now, folks, do we happen to have pets?
Cats.
Cats?
Used to have one.
I myself, I have a hedgehog and a dog. The Lincolns also have pets too. They have a dog. His name is Fido. You'll find Fido in here, probably chasing his tail around if he's not wrestling with the boys. They also have cats as well, a number of cats. Lincoln liked to pick up stray cats. On his way home from the law office, Mary referred to it as his hobby, collecting cats. Of course, after a long, busy day, I'm sure this family is probably ready for bed. And that's when they're going to head on upstairs. Now, as we go up the stairs, I'll ask that you hold on to the railing. Alright, so go ahead and take a look in the room to the left. That is the guest room. In there you're going to find the only original bed that we have. That's the sleigh bed in there. That is the only original bed. Once you're done looking around in there, you're going to come on into Lincoln's room, the room behind me. Just make sure to sit on this blue carpet.
How tall was he?
6'4". You can actually look at this mirror right here. It's set for his height. Alright guys, so this is Lincoln's room. Now as you're all looking around, you're probably going to notice the wallpaper. How many of you guys want this wallpaper in your bedroom? A lot of hard no's. Okay, I don't know you
Not
guys.
here.
So throughout most of the home, most of the wallpaper we see is only a period piece. So of the time frame, not necessarily lives in the home. This room is the exception. We do know what the wallpaper in this room looked like. We were able to reproduce it exactly.
Wow.
So Mary picked it out. She had it imported from France. She did have about 5 different colors to choose from. She went with the blue we were seeing in front of us. And if you happen to think this is a little interesting, one of the other colors is actually red. It made the walls look like they were bleeding.
Yeah,
So at least she decided to go with the blue. And as you guys are also looking around, if you happen to notice over there in the corner of the desk, that is Lincoln's original writing desk. So you can think about the things that may have been written there. I normally think about the House Divided speech, as that would have been the most famous speech he did right here in Springfield. But Lincoln could be kind of a night owl. Sometimes he was up till 2 a.m. working on speeches and other things. So that'll actually be part of the reason why Mary gets her own room, the room behind me. The other reason is that during the time frame, it was actually common to have 2 separate bedrooms. It was a sign of wealth if you could afford such a thing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to walk on into Mary's room. I'll tell you guys a little bit about her room. Morning, guys. Come on. Alright, so this is going to be Mary's room. Originally, when this addition is done, she shares the bedroom with the 2 younger boys. They would have a trundle bed under her bed, pulled out right here for the boys to sleep on at night. And the oldest one, Robert, he's going to get his own room across the hallway. We'll visit that room in a minute. Original you have in here is actually the commode, the sewing table with the sewing bird, the rocking chair with footstool, as well as the dresser. The dresser had actually come from Kentucky from when she'd been a little girl. And as for the sewing bird, a lot of people don't really know what it does or how it works. But the sewing bird, it works as a third hand when you're sewing. You'd clasp the tail feathers on the edge, it opens its mouth, take your spool of thread, shove it right in its mouth, close it, and it's going to hold that spool of thread while you sew.
I've never seen that.
Yes,
Me
it's very
neither.
interesting.
That's cool.
But now we're going to head out into this hallway and we're going to go see Robert's room. Okay. So this is in fact Robert's room, at least until he turns 17. He turns 17 years old, he's going to leave for Harvard. Willie and Tad decide to take the opportunity to take over older brother's room. So that's why all the toys are in there. Now, when you're outside, if you happen to notice on the side of the house the green wrought iron, kind of looked like it was supposed to be balcony. So if you didn't notice those when you get outside, just take a quick peek up and you'll see them. It was not actually intended to be a balcony. It's only supposed to be decoration. However, Willie and Tad's window right here does in fact open up to that area. They take full advantage of it. In fact, when Lincoln's running for the presidency, you could find the boys out there yelling at people. They were telling them to vote for old Abe, they'd say. Robert happens to catch them doing this one time, yells up at them, tells them to knock it off because it is rude to call their father old. Tad, being the youngest boy without missing a beat, goes, "What are you talking about? Dad is old." The boys did continue to do so. Now if you look around in there and you notice the marbles, those plainer looking marbles in there, those were actually found outside under the porch. So the boys may have lost their marbles. Or the other possibility too is that the hired girl gets tired of cleaning them up, pitches them out the window. Personally, that's what I think happens. Now the Lincolns do have a hired girl, but unlike most families where the hired girl only got a nice spot to sleep in front of the fireplace at night, the Lincolns were actually able to give theirs her own bedroom. And that's that room you see down at the end of the hallway on the left. She gets paid $1.50 a week. Gets that room, 3 meals a day. She's also going to get Sundays off. Now don't think of her like a slave or a servant. This is going to be similar to an internship for her. I always try to emphasize that because they actually went back, interviewed some of these hired girls after this family had gone on to the White House. One of those interviews, they interviewed a young African-American woman by the name of Ruth. In her interview, she talked about how Mary would don the same clothing as her, get on her hands and knees right beside her, scrub the floors right along with her. So it was more of a shared companionship. They'd work side by side to do the cleaning, sewing, taking care of the boys. Although I always imagined that the hired girl was the only one cleaning the chamber pots out. Keep in mind, she's only going to be a teenager between the ages of 14 and 17, normally coming from an immigrant family. So this is the best job she's going to be able to find. In the time frame the Lincolns live here, they go through multiple different hired girls though. With that, different ethnicities. They have Irish, German, African American, and Portuguese for their different hired girls. And there is one chore this hired girl doesn't actually have to do. That's the cooking. Mary preferred to do that on her own. So we're gonna head on downstairs now and you can go check out the kitchen. Welcome to Mary's kitchen. Of course, this is where Mary would cook every day. Now, when Mary got married to Lincoln, like I said earlier, she took a large step down in wealth. In fact, her family had even owned slaves. So prior to living in this home, she's never had to cook before. When they first get here, they don't have the stove. Mary actually learned to cook everything over an open fire. Lincoln went out later on though, buys her this stove as a gift. And there's a story that goes with the stove, and that was when the family was getting ready to leave, trying to decide what they were going to take with them. One of the things Mary supposedly wanted to take with, the stove. Lincoln, of course, said no, there'll be stoves in the White House. Besides, she's not really going to have the time to cook, being the First Lady. And as the family lives here in this home, they do go through some transitions, whether it was adding on to the home, having one of their children, or of course, getting ready to leave for the White House. When they were getting ready to leave, everyone did have their own worries. The boys were concerned about whether or not they'd make friends when they get there. They're leaving their companion Fido behind, so they're also worried about whether or not they're going to be able to have pets as well. Mary's worried about the home being comfortable enough for the family, and Lincoln, of course, he's got the biggest worry of all. Is there going to be a war? If so, what's going to happen? And is he going to have the time to spend with his family? Of course, as we go through life, we got to go through our own transitions. Whether that was leaving for college, buying a home, starting a job, having a child, and eventually getting ready to retire. So at one point or another, we get to be just like the Lincolns, going through those transitions of our own. Alright folks, this does conclude my tour. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Do you have any questions? Alright, well we're going to head out this door right here. I do ask that you watch your step down, and if you want, you can check out the outhouse. It's got 3 holes, no waiting. Just be mindful of the maintenance workers. They are working on some stuff upstairs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Of course.
Cool. So we've seen enough of those, right?
Yeah, I've seen a few of those.
You guys enjoy heading back home.
You too, man. Be safe.
Will do.
Guys.
Thanks a lot.
We don't have enough time. At least walk